Well, I'm Lisa Caruso. From all over the place, but I've been in Sunbury for 10 years. And, I don't know, LGBT, married. I don't know.
I'm Tina Caruso. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, but spent 34 years on the West Coast. Never thought I'd come back. Here I am.
And how long have you been in Sunbury?
3 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moved from Pottsville.
Yeah.
Okay. Pronouns are she, her?
Yes.
Okay. So you're living in Sunbury now. Where did the two of you grow up? In this area, or you said Potts?
I grew up in Bucks County.
Okay.
I was raised by the military.
So all over.
Yeah.
You did say all over.
Yeah.
So then, what brought you to Sunbury? Any other connections to Sunbury?
Well, my son has a child. His baby mama is from the area. She went to Line Mountain High School. And when I adopted my grandson here, and I needed some support, so I moved up with my son so he could help. And that's how I got here. Just random. Got a job in Sunbury. Surprisingly enough, applied for a gazillion jobs. Got a job in Sunbury.
Okay.
So, right in my field, and I did that work for 10 years, and I just recently changed jobs. So.
Okay. And then you moved for her? Or...
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I drove her here.
I was in the middle of a career change anyway, and I wasn't really settled on Schuylkill. So, I said, yep, this feels like the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about your background as far as education and career goes.
I have a master's degree in psychology. I used to teach high school, at-risk youth. And then I worked for Keystone Mental Health, working with at-risk. Well, I worked for Department of Children's Services in Tennessee for a while. And Keystone Human Services with at-risk families. And now I'm a therapist over at Crossroads. That's it.
Okay.
Easy peasy.
I specialize in manufacturing operations, all phases. Been doing it for over 30 years. So I get to bounce around whenever I want to because there's lots of manufacturing. And I just went through a career change. So I'm working with Ritz-Craft now. And a lot of change for us, Fast and Furious.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Kind of overnight.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you have a coming out story? Or what is your history of how you got from point A to point B?
Well, I was married previously for 12 years-ish and had three children. But we were just talking about this the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had an indication or an inkling that there was something that was different. But raised in the military, very conservative. Italian Catholic family, very conservative. And I just kind of went along with the flow. But then I read a book, Ruby Fruit Jungle. And it was, I had never heard the word lesbian, ever. Mm-hmm. Until I was almost 20, I think. And so I just thought that there was something wrong with me. And then I read that book and I was like, oh, so that's what it is. And then, it took some time because, I had kids. I was teaching. I was settled in life and still an Italian Catholic family. And it just eventually, I think it was like 8 years ago, I was just like, you know what? I was having some mental health difficulties just because of identity and not knowing where I was going to go or anything like that. And then slowly but surely I came out to my family. My Aunt Betsy was the first one. And she says, I always knew you were a rainbow child. And then, my kids, and they all embraced it very easily. And then just along the line, a little bit here, a little bit there. Not too long, well, about 2 years ago, I took one last leap into the dating a man pool, and that didn't work out. And then I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to pretend anymore. Why should I? Most of my friends are LGBT at one aspect or another. So I had a lot of support here in Sunbury. It's a very LGBT friendly town, surprisingly enough. And I just felt it was the right place, you know.
So you were married to a man for 12 years?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been divorced way longer than I was married. So.
Did that marriage sort of fall apart because of...
No, that marriage fell apart because he's a felon.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, he got in trouble, and I have standards. You know, I was teaching high school at the time, too, and that was part of it, too. Like, I taught high school, and, you know, there's a certain communication that you have to maintain and a certain persona, and it just wasn't, you know, I needed to... But when I was teaching high school, my classroom was always the safe classroom. Like, all of my LGBT students knew, and I didn't even have to say anything to them about me, but they always knew that I was safe because I allowed them to express themselves and didn't, you know, didn't judge or anything like that. So they were allowed to hold hands in my classroom, you know, during lunch and stuff like that. I just felt always close to it. And even when I was married to my ex-husband, I was involved in organizations that worked with the men who were sick with HIV. You know, I didn't have any exposure to lesbian stuff because, like, it was way back when, and that was who knew. But I always involved myself in the gay society, helping those out. I always felt comfortable with that, and I always felt like I was supportive, and I just fit. And so that was about it.
So what was it about? What was it about yourself that you kept trying to date men? Is that because of the conservative background?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely frowned upon to be gay, lesbian, trans. Well, trans wasn't even a thing. It was definitely frowned upon, and lots of names being called. I was shamed when I was younger, maybe about 12-ish. My cousins, we were talking and stuff, and I mentioned something, and my cousins shamed me, and they're my age. So I was like, oh, okay, never mind. And then my aunts always had, like, derogatory names to call people. We had a couple friends who, were same-sex, and there was lots of jokes going on and derogatory stuff. So I just, you know, didn't, okay, never mind. I just thought there was something wrong, you know.
So how old were you when you came out to your family?
About 8 years ago, so about 50.
Okay.
Yeah, about that. It was right before my daughter got married. It was actually, some of it was at the night of her wedding rehearsal. Got a few many drinks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Liquid courage.
Yeah, there you go. But it was, you know, people that I knew would be supportive. And, you know, like I said, my Aunt Betsy, she was always like, she always knew. But she's one of those intuitive people. And she's been real supportive throughout the years, you know.
Were you having sort of a mental health crisis because of trying not to identify and trying not to love who you wanted to love?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Very much. Depression and anxiety. Actually, quite honestly, the point that came to me actually coming out, like I said, I dated a man a couple years ago, but I ended up in the hospital. I had anxiety, and I was just at that point, I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. I work in mental health, you know, I need to be able to be authentic. Mm-hmm. And that's when, I mean, my family already knew, but that's when I just said, screw it to the rest of the world, and came out to God, Facebook, and society. You know, Facebook was the big one, you know.
You put a big post out there?
Oh, I just changed it to interested in women. That was that, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. The rest of the world found out when we got married, because we just kind of posted that too. You know? All of a sudden, like, oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a huge mental health thing for me. It was. And working in the mental health field, I battled it even more so, I think, than if I didn't have any knowledge of that. But also, I knew where I would find my support because of it too. Mm.
So, Tina, I definitely want to get to how you two met, et cetera, but let's hear about, you know, if you do have a similar story of coming out, or
you know, I
journey?
was brave. I came out in my late teens or early 20s, and you know, I had the derogatory names thrown at me. My sister, my mom said it's a phase. I was evicted from an apartment in Green Lane, Pennsylvania. My neighbor dated a sheriff, and he called me direct on my landline because there weren't even pagers back then. And he said, you have 2 hours to get out.
Wow.
And the landlord backed it. So I was living at my girlfriend's house, and they were very conservative and very religious, and it was taboo there, so it was really uncomfortable. But I braved the elements, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to throw a dart in the wind. Went to Arizona, visited some close friends that were LGBT, and I said, you know what? I think I like Arizona. I went home, told my boss, after just promoting me in the aerospace industry, said, I totally lied to the guy. But I was young, so it was acceptable back then.
Lying.
But I just got this promotion, and when I came back from vacation, I said, Dave, I got a job with Intel. And he was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I didn't have a job with Intel, but I gave him 30 days notice, sent all my belongings, sold my car 4 hours before my flight. 3 weeks later, I was working for Intel Corporation.
God.
And so being on the left coast, as they like to say, which isn't really left, it's actually very conservative, very much more progressive. I mean, Sunbury's doing really well. Schuylkill County is horrible. But I'm used to Phoenix, Arizona, Northern California. I lived in a resort town called Monterey along the Russian River. Very progressive, very accepting. So coming back to Pennsylvania has been a little bit of a pill to swallow. And now I'll get into the next segue, the way we met. So there's a group out there, lesbians of Pennsylvania lesbians.
On Facebook.
On Facebook.
Yeah, on Facebook. And so there's a lot of people trying to create these monthly meetup gatherings for lesbians and, you know, alphabet people, as I call them, because they keep adding letters. But anyway, Lisa happened to be in one of the groups, and everybody was talking. I noticed that she was kind of following the same people I was following. And I realized I needed to just stop looking for something other than friendship. So I stopped looking, right? Because everybody looks to date or whatever if you've been single for a long time. But I stopped looking, and I sent her a message and said, hey, you know, we're trying to do this group.
Like a meetup.
A meetup group, and we're having a really hard time getting people to actually commit, especially in Schuylkill County. People just, though they're fine going to Home Depot and Lowe's, but they don't want to come outside, you know? And so we agreed to meet. And I'm like, you know, I don't like driving at night. It was a weekday, right?
Mm.
Yeah, we agreed to meet on a weekday. And I was actually temporarily disabled after breaking my arm, so a weekday was fine with me. I said, I'll sleep on the couch. This is nothing like shady or anything. Let's talk.
In that room over there.
Yeah, let's get together and talk about forming some sort of group where we can meet centrally to everybody within a 50-mile radius.
Because everybody talks about, you know, LGBT, lesbians, they talk about, we can't meet anybody. Where do we meet anybody? How do we, you know, the older ones anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the red flags, blah, 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 blah. But no one will take the chance to go out and meet anybody.
Yeah.
You know, they talk about it. But then when it comes down to it, nobody does it. So I was like, you know what? I'm freaking 58 years old. What am I waiting for? You know, I'm going to take a chance. And I mean, Tina was the same way. You know?
Yeah, but I really was going to sleep on the couch.
Well, shh. Don't tell the dirty secrets.
That's all I said.
I know. Yeah, but there's inference. No, but no, I mean, we talked like all night and just clicked. You know, I mean, it was hours and
hours before we even met.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we would spend before we even met face to face. We spent 6, 7, 8 hours on the phone. Who does that? Right. You know, I mean, seriously. So then we decided to meet face to face, but we had already had like lots of conversations and knew a lot about each other, and we'd laugh all the time. Like we always laugh, always.
Yeah.
And that's our relationship started with laughter. So, you know, I mean, it's been not so long, but
yeah. And at our age, you know, you recognize certain characteristics, personality traits, whatever. I was married to a woman for 17 years.
In California.
Yeah, in California. And that didn't end well over assets. So, you know, you kind of learn your lessons through life. And at this age, when you find that connection that is more powerful than the connection you had with somebody you were married for 17 years with, that's a sign.
Yeah.
And so I just said, let's get married. She said, are you serious? And I said, yeah. Okay.
So what year did you start talking and
2023. Yeah.
Don't be shy.
February?
I think it was 2 weeks after we met, we decided to get married.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was February, and we got married March 10th.
It's just a month. We were...
So you had been talking all year?
No!
We started talking in February.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess when you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you do.
Yeah.
You do. And, especially at our age. I mean, it's like, the signs are...
And in August, I dated someone before her, but I came out of it was, you know, my very first long-term same-sex relationship. It was long distance too, thank God. And it was very toxic. So there were a lot of things that I learned about myself in that situation. But then when I met Tina, it was like totally nothing that I expected. Nothing that I had experienced at all, as far as, you know, expectations, and like everything that I was looking for, she fills. Well, I don't know about everything, but many of the things.
Well, and the thing that's important to remember here is that was not the intent.
Oh yeah, not at all.
Getting together at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Like, she was worried that I was going to be a crazy lady, and I wasn't worried. I was just like really hoping that we'd reached the goal that we got together for. And we have actually. We've met a small
group of people.
A small group of people, and now we plan things, and we've missed a few get-togethers just because of work, timing, starting a new career and stuff like that. But that wasn't the intent. The magic happened instantly.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was almost like, wow. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, I mean, we share a lot in common. We have the same sense of humor. Through life's lessons, we know the importance of communicating.
Yep.
Whether you feel comfortable about your feelings, whether they're justified or not, it doesn't matter. Talk about it. And if you can spin it into a moment with a smile and a laugh, do it.
Yeah.
And that's equally important to both of us. And just, we have artistic abilities. We both paint, we sketch,
music.
She's a great singer. I play guitar. Like, everything's the perfect match.
And the parts that were opposite of each other, they fit. You know, like, it's not like there's no barrier or challenge. It just like they all fit in together. So we become a package. Yeah. You know. Yeah. I mean, this one gets along with us, so.
He kind of likes us.
Yeah, you know. She's met my kid. Well, she's met 2 out of 3 of my kids.
Yeah, that was interesting. But I thought, because of my past and being in a marriage which was very amicable, we were best friends for 17 years. You know, we had to get married for medical reasons. It was a life or death situation, so it was get the notary into the hospital. Fast forward, now that was a long time ago, but fast forward, when we realized our connection almost instantly, I thought it would be really cool to just spring it on everybody. No planning, just do it.
We did.
And when we tell the story, everybody loves it.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody loves it. But the second time I met her oldest son, she sprung it on him. She was like, first we weren't going to tell anybody. We were like, let's keep it on the down.
We're just going to have a barbecue in the summer.
Yeah, and we're going to
spring it.
We're just going to have somebody show up and marry us right there at the barbecue. And I said, and that was too hard.
I got stressed.
She was getting stressed, so I'm like, okay, don't keep it a secret. Just tell everybody. Well, her son came over for the second time. I met her during an Eagles game. I'm a Dallas fan.
Yeah, right.
That's the opposite there. from Philadelphia. I am a Dallas fan.
Right? That was almost a deal breaker.
No, it wasn't.
No, I'm kidding. We're going to get a flag, the House Divided flag.
But her son came over after the Super Bowl another time, and she says, "Oh, by the way, we're getting married." And he's like, "Okay." And he smiles and he says, "Hi, stepmom." And I'm like, easy.
Right? Back off. Yeah.
Stepmom is going too far, but wife was okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's a little adjustment going on there. You know?
Well, you know.
That's great. So, what was the wedding date?
March 10th.
Okay. So you've only been married for 3 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Was it like a courthouse wedding?
Nope.
Or?
Right here in my living room.
Okay.
We got Corinne Albright officiated the wedding for us because Vicky was out of town. And it was just Tina, myself, my son, River, my friend Julie.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Yeah, we wanted to keep it real low key.
Real small.
We were supposed to go out to the gazebo by the river,
cold.
but it was sleet and freezing rain and snow. And we did some errands that day, and we improvised. She got some of her things together. I came up with some of my decorating ideas, and we threw together a little makeshift chapel-looking background right there on those two doors.
The pocket doors, yeah.
And made it beautiful.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
Yep. Had an hour to get it done.
Right.
Yeah, it couldn't have been any better. Yeah.
Yep.
So, where's the honeymoon going to be?
Well, we're originally planning. Well, we were originally planning on New Hope in May, but work got in the way.
Yeah.
So we have to rearrange stuff, but definitely in the summer, close, not too far away.
Yeah.
Every day's a honeymoon, though.
Yeah, pretty much for us.
Yeah.
So then, do you, like, going out with each other? Obviously, you can tell, your arms around her.
Mm-hmm.
You're very comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
Are you like that in public then?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
very much so.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that was really important to me.
Okay.
Is that, because for so long I was so hidden and so miserable, and I did not want to hide anymore. That's why I came out, because I was done hiding, and I needed someone who was going to be as comfortable in public as me, like hold my hand. I mean, not gratuitous stuff, but we go out. We went to the wineries this weekend, on the wine trail, a couple of them, and just the sitting close to each other, holding hands, little couple of wine kisses.
Yeah, and surprisingly, having lived in California for over 20 years, Northern California, people in San Francisco would leave San Francisco to get away from the tourists to come up to our town, which was a vacation resort town. I was very modest. I did not like public displays of affection, so I wasn't necessarily in the closet, but I didn't talk about my personal life outside of, the little town that I lived in. And, signs of affection coming from me with my wife at the time were just casual, kind of like this, this is the first time in my 54 years of life that I don't care if we have a non-R-rated kiss in front of people.
Yeah. And two, I work with LGBT youth a lot. I have a handful of transgender youth, and I cannot be a good example if I'm afraid. How can I support them and help them be their authentic selves if I can't be my own, And I should be able to go out and hold my wife's hand out in public. We're not going to be making out or anything like that, but no one says anything about man and wife holding hands. So, I don't care. That's just who I am and who we are, and the world needs to just deal with it. In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
Are you nervous about doing that in public, or
oh no,
has anyone ever said anything to you as in, like,
not yet,
negatively?
Not with us. No.
Okay.
Nope. No.
Okay.
And I don't know. I've just in this area in Pennsylvania, I think it's just been very very friendly. You know, I mean,
and our
didn't, darn mayor was gay.
I didn't experience the same in Schuylkill County. So I didn't have my heart set on living in Schuylkill County for a long period of time. And so the two of us crossing each other's path was kind of like, you know, a sign.
Yeah.
And I feel still to this day, I told her this a couple of times so far since I've been here in Sunbury. Sometimes I step out the door and I don't feel like I'm in Pennsylvania. When I was in Schuylkill County, I felt like I was in Pennsylvania, and it felt like I was in Pennsylvania when it wasn't okay to talk about, you know, being gay. And that was in the 80s. And Schuylkill County reminds me of that time in my life. And it was frustrating. So now I'm at home with the right package.
Yeah. I mean, I have people in my circle that are conservative and a little bit homophobic, but whatever. And they don't like my lifestyle, they can go away. You know, it's pretty much basic. And that's the same way I feel about my family and my kids. And thank God my children were very acceptable. Mm-hmm. But I raised them to be that way. I raised my children to be very open-minded and accepting. You know, I was a little bit worried about him, but years ago, when he was much younger, I had roommates. One was a drag queen. They were married. One was a drag queen. So he's been exposed throughout the years to different... We went to Pride last year, and I think that was a little bit extreme. There were a little bit of things there that I was like, oh, that's interesting. But, you know, I don't hide it from him. You know, I don't... He needs to be... exposed to different people's lifestyles and stuff. You know? So
I think it's a very interesting, I don't know what the right word is, but, you know, coming from someone who tried to hide themselves for 50 years, and then someone who kind of saw yourself, knew what you were pretty early on, I think that's an interesting dichotomy. What would your advice, or what would you say to somebody who are in similar situations where either maybe they're denying themselves or they're looking to fully accept themselves?
Well, it's a loaded question for me because my ex-wife was straight.
Okay.
Yes. And the way we met was, I guess you can call it catfishing. There was another party involved. So I don't know that I have good advice. Because I was young at the time, and it was a long-term investment. Children were raised, you know, all kinds of crazy things.
She had,
I raised 2 boys with my ex-wife. But it was also a bitter pill because turns out she wasn't really a lesbian either. So it was kind of hard to swallow. She wasn't a lesbian to start with, and in the end, she wasn't a lesbian. So me giving somebody advice, know your weaknesses and what areas you need to heal before you step into that situation again, because that's a deep scar. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been through a lot. I made a lot of changes in my life because I wanted to experience life, and the most part has been really, really great lessons learned. And you have to be able to get past those hard times. And it's never easy for anyone. And I can't say that I've done a good job of it over the last 8 years. But breaking my arm, believe it or not, really helped. It was a bad arm break. It was really bad, trauma related. So that's what made me, okay, put the brakes on, Tina, take a good look at life. And who knew she was around the corner. Yeah. So I don't have great advice. She's the therapist, though.
I don't know. I mean, you need to find someone who's going to be supportive. You know, bottom line, even if you're ready to come out or not, you need someone that you can talk to. It's horrible. It's horrible having all that in you and not being able to express it and being afraid of it and thinking that there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. I mean, I grew up thinking there was something desperately wrong with me. And I deal with, you know, I work with youth now, and I can I do share my story with them somewhat. Because I have youth that I worked with that have the same type of abuse from growing up situations. And, I share, some of that made me question, like, is this why I like women because of that? I had to deal with all of that. But I needed someone very supportive. And I was very lucky when I moved here, when I met Vicky. And then, she married Christine. Christine's very supportive too. And then there are a handful of other people in town that are married and I've just navigated toward them and been able to speak with them. And even when I wasn't out, I was out to them, just like, it's hard, especially if your family isn't acceptable of it. My mother still thinks it's a phase.
So does mine.
Yeah.
But I think, also post-pandemic, the pandemic changed a lot of
things,
dynamics,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
especially social dynamics. So I think if people could try and massage that 2-year scar that we all endured, especially in the states that shut down,
mm-hmm.
And find that support person, people, whoever it might be.
And even if you're not out, because the group that we met on, like we said, there's so many women that are bitching about, oh, I can't meet anybody. But then you offer an opportunity to get a group of people together and nobody shows up. There's always an excuse. Go for it. Go for it. I mean, and that's it. We talked, before we actually, after the question and the answer, before we, actually set a date, we really talked a lot about, is this the right thing? What are we doing? And we came to the consensus that, our age and our experiences and our knowledge and our goals and where we want to go, there's no reason for us. What are we going to do? Live together for 5 years and then get married? And, I had a friend who was like, oh, you haven't known each other that long. And I said, you live with someone for 10 years. The marriage lasted, a year. They got married. The marriage lasted a year. What is the difference there? Why am I going to wait when I know exactly this is how we feel? We have so much in common as far as, connection.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason.
And to our surprise, people in her world and my world were like, that's awesome. Yeah. You're just going to randomly do this?
Yeah.
And they thought it was so exciting. They were like, what an adventure.
I know.
How brave.
And everybody.
And if you have those supporting personalities around you, then dealing with that dichotomy would be a lot easier.
And there's only one person in my world that was questioning. Everybody else could see between us, when we're together, they could tell. Even when I'm not with her and they see me and I talk about her, they know. They could tell. At work, when I told them I was getting married, they saw it on me. I didn't have to explain anything. It was automatic. So it's not like it was just this crazy stupid thing to come along. It's definitely visible between us. There's definitely a connection.
Yeah, everybody feels our energy, and that's the other thing too. You have to recognize within yourself and between you and the other individual, the energy that's there. It can't be something that's rushed. And a lot of older lesbians and maybe even gay men, I don't know, tend to rush things because there is that, I'm not getting any younger thing.
But there's that joke. What does a lesbian bring on a second date? A U-Haul.
Right. So.
Yeah. We made it past the second date before the U-Haul showed up. We actually got married before the U-Haul showed up.
Yeah, we did. We moved the next day.
The day after. Yep. Yeah. But I don't know. It's just, I've never been more calm. I've never been more settled or I don't have any questions or any qualms or anything like that. Any other relationship that I've been in, there's always been that, what's if, and not once have I even thought that since I met her. Yeah.
Yeah. We both looked at each other and said, "Are we crazy?"
Yeah.
Nah, let's just do it.
Yeah. Even after we said, yeah, we still was like, oh gosh, what are we doing?
Yeah. When was the question of, do we want to get married, asked in the timeline of your relationship?
Like
2 weeks.
2
2
or
weeks.
3 weeks in.
Yeah.
And had you met? You had met?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, you
Yeah.
didn't say you came down.
Yeah. I came to see her on the 8th of February. Hung out for 2 days. Went back to Pottsville. I was just getting back to work after breaking my arm. I was at work 3 days. And I called her and I said, you know what? I think it's time for a career change and a move.
Yep.
So I was home for 3 days. I came back and I haven't left since. Except to move.
Yeah. Well, you always spent every night here, though.
Yeah.
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 But that was it.
All right.
Yeah.
It's, it's a level of maturity. And, I met a lot of 50-something-year-olds that just don't have maturity.
Mm.
And there's other people, on both sides of the spectrum that are very mature, very grounded in who they are as a person. And with her life experiences and my life experiences, regardless of when she came out versus when I came out, it's that level of maturity and recognizing your internal feelings and how comfortable you are with dealing with the challenges of homophobia or conservatism, if that's a word. And we both know that about each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really overwhelming and intimidating because we were like, we still have to get to know each other even after we're married. Because we didn't do the trial run.
Yeah, but
we connected.
You get married, people change anyway.
Right. And we connected so well, and our level of maturity and how our life experiences has helped us and hindered us is an understanding that we feed off of with each other, and we help each other kind of turn it into...
We can see each other's thought bubbles.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
So if you're
Can't read the words, but we know they're there.
If your chemistry, regardless of, when you came out, when I came out, or whatever, if you have all those elements in place, and the support system, even if you don't have the support system, find the support system.
Find it. It's there.
But
you just need to be able to accept it.
Yeah.
There's so many women that are in our age bracket that are just too afraid, for whatever, previous experiences, conservatism, their own insecurities. They're just too afraid. And I just decided that I'm just tired of being afraid, and I'm tired of not having a good life. I want to be happy. I want to be satisfied. I want to have someone in my life that I really love and connect with, and when we met, that was just pretty much automatic.
Yeah.
What a cool story. Thank you for sharing it.
Absolutely.